I've been wanting this guy since he was first announced, and I finally picked him up. Welcome to Superhuman Customs. I'm Stephen Human. Today we are doing Hawkman. I've always enjoyed Hawkman. I've always liked the character. I like that he's a little bit more hardcore, a little bit different from the other heroes, willing to cross some lines, especially this version. And I've been wanting him, but every time I'd find him at retail, I was like, do I want to pay 30 bucks? You know, well, I was at a comic convention here in my local city, and I picked him up for 20. That was a steal in my opinion. So now we're gonna do Hawkman. We're gonna do some simple stuff. I'm not gonna do anything crazy. I wanna really experiment with the skin tone. I wanna add some shadows, but I'm not gonna use my black wash. I'm gonna use brown and see if we can make it a little bit more subtle. We're just gonna add some details in here, crisp up the wings. So this is really gonna be a detailed job, and I'm very excited to get into it because if I can get some of these things to work, I want to experiment with the Wonder Woman. You know which Wonder Woman I'm talking about. I got one and I kind of want to darken her skin, but I'm nervous, so this is gonna be our test. Let's go ahead and jump in and make this Hawkman super cool. Let's start with the easiest first. Just gonna add a layer of wash. And I'm just gonna lay it on thick. I want it to get in all these cracks and crevices, and then I'm gonna do a dry brush over the top and lighten the wings up. So that's all we're gonna do. Nice and quick, darken them up. We wanna go dark to light. While we're here, I am going to do the black wash on some of these details here on his legs. So I think I'm going to do some wash on his head too, but I already put it away, so I'll do that in a little bit. Right now, let's start with our experiment, which is the brown under the muscles. Now I found that the black just tends to really do too much, and I don't want that on this guy. I want him to look cool, I want him to look defined, but I don't want it to be a dark black or even a gray. So let's see how this brown looks. It's a different consistency than the black is, but we'll see. Just try and be as subtle as we possibly can and see how it turns out. What do you guys think? Looks like it's beating up a little bit, so I'm gonna have to move it around. You don't want it to beat up, and this one definitely is. The black usually doesn't, but this one does. So let's just move it around. Keep it nice and little. So I've got the black wash out again. I'm gonna go over his head here. And then we'll go over it in blacks and silvers just to play around with it. Now, on the body itself here with the brown, just after doing that, I can tell I'm not gonna be able to do the Wonder Woman in the way that I wanted. The black tends to go on really nice and smooth and doesn't, like beat up. The brown definitely did. So I was able to make it work here, but I don't think doing a full character, especially when I'm nervous about wrecking, is a good idea. So we'll just stick with this. Maybe I'll try a little bit of black in there. I don't know. We'll experiment. Now, one of the things that I'm doing with this guy on these little pieces here for the arms, they really stand out on characters that are bare-chested because they don't have any details. I don't want to put too much on there because they switch around, but if I just do a couple of little lines like that, you can see that it just adds a little bit of personality. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little bit on the arms too. This is just, again, with the wash. And I put just a few lines on the chin here to do the same thing, to just get it so that he's got a little bit more of a 5 o'clock shadow look. And I got barely anything on the brush. It's just me going through with the dregs and adding just a few little lines here and there. Before I put the wash away, you can see this is the mace that he came with, and this is the mace that the movie version came with. And I used the movie character last Christmas for my friends for their D&D. So I'm actually gonna switch it out so he has a much meaner mace. And I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to darken it up with the wash and then go through with just some other silver textures to make it look more metallic. One thing I'm gonna do with him that's a little bit different is I'm gonna take some of my metallic blue that you've seen me use a whole bunch of times, and I'm going to put it on his trunks here. Just on the trunks, because they often show that this is a little slightly different texture. And you can see it's got like these lines in it. And so we're just going to do that. not on the legs or anything, just to make it so that this has a very different feel to it, so that it stands out against the rest of the figure. And then we'll go through and we'll add details to all these pouches and stuff. But for now, this will be something that sets it apart. I think it'll look good. See, nice and easy, nice and simple. Just adds a little teeny bit to the figure that makes it so that it's very subtle, but that will look really cool. The time has come for the wings. So I'm just going to dry brush on a very dark gray. And it's not going to do much, but you can see it is pulling out some of the black in here. So all I'm going to do, I'm just going to use what's on the brush, and then we'll lighten it up from there. Now we're going to use a much lighter gray, and we're going to dry brush that on. And as you can see, it's just hitting the ridges, which is what we want. Just want these highlights. So as you can see, I got a little bit, and then I dabbed it on the toilet paper here. And now we're just dusting it over the top. It's hitting those ridges, and it's adding some contrast. Last but not least, we're going to do a bone white, and I'm just going to lightly go up against the feathers and just hit the edges here. And as you can see, that last little bit really hits things. And you can actually do a white after this if you want, just a straight white. That will do the same thing. And I might do that, I don't know, we'll see. But it will just make everything pop. So nice. Now we're going to take a little bit of gold and go over the mask here. And just hit these highlights. Just that simple. Now I'm going to use a leather brown on these pouches and little things over here, just to make them stand out. I'm going to keep the belt the same color, I think, but just to go through and add some contrast here. Now, the last little bit of experiment is I've got a little bit of flesh tone with a bunch of water. Maybe not enough water. I just want to go over some of these areas to tone them down just a little bit. The shadowing. And so I just want to get some in here. And I think it'll make it so that it looks less harsh. So that's all I'm going to do, is just take this little bit and go in here and hopefully be able to just make it look a little bit more natural. Because right now it looks a little bit too dirty, and I don't necessarily want it to look super dirty. So let's see what this does. One last thing I'm going to do is that the wings feel a little bit monochromatic to me. You got the gray and you got the dark. So I'm taking a little bit of my brown wash and I'm going in between some of the leaves in here, just to give a little bit more of a texture to things, a little bit of a brown. Now, I don't want the wings to be brown. I want them to have this look, but this I think will add enough personality that it won't look quite so monochromatic. It'll look more like actual wings, because again, I don't want them to be fully brown. But I think adding a little bit will really make things just pop a little bit more. And I'm liking the look of it. So I think this will be the last thing we do, and then we'll be finished. Subtle, but subtlety's the name of the game. I am a Hawkman fan. I love his look. I love when he has kind of that meanness to him, and I think that we were able to pull this off. Going over the shade in here on the abs and stuff with a little bit of the flesh tone really helped to tone it down and make it look more natural. So I'm very proud of how that turned out. This guy is just awesome. Thank you guys for watching so much. I appreciate your comments. Leave comments, give me tips, And yeah, I just hope you guys enjoy these as much as I enjoy making them. I'm Stephen Human. Check out stephenhuman.com for all of my novels, and check out quimleys.com for all of your board game needs. And I will see all of you next week.